As you see, today's topic is collision. And collision is actually is extension of same thing, extension of conservation of momentum. Let's understand what is collision, and you'll notice there's only one thing little new in this topic. That's all we need to understand in case of collision compared to conservation of momentum and conservation of energy. See, what is collision? When two or more particles, and typically in case of two particles, most of the cases involve only two particles. If two particles exert impulse on each other, that's collision. So this collision can happen when they come in contact. It can also happen when they exert field force on each other. Two particle system, whenever two particles are there, if there's no external force, only internal force acting between two of them, then forces will always, since internal forces, they will always be equal and opposite at all instances. If forces are equal and opposite at all instances, the resulting impulse also will be equal and opposite. Hence, change in momentum also equal and opposite. So when we add them together, one momentum is reversed. So we add them together. If they are equal and opposite, it will cancel out. Change in momentum is zero. So whatever, if I take a particular direction as positive, if one of the momentum increases, other momentum will decrease by the same value. So that's a very simple reason for conservation of momentum. So whenever we have two particle system, unless some external force is involved, they just exchange momentum. Momentum remains constant. And this is all true in all cases of collision. Now, two more things we deal with. So that's why I'm talking about. One new thing about collision is only one thing we need to understand, and that's coefficient of restitution. To understand coefficient of restitution, a couple of small points here. Line of motion is very simple. If this particle is moving, line of motion is along the direction of velocity. So two objects are there, we can easily understand what the line of motion is. And one more thing is the line of collision. So this line of motion, line of collision is direction along which contact forces are acting. It is along, and this is direction along which contact force acts or impulse act. Which direction the line of collision is along the common normal for smooth surfaces. So we'll come to that case later, common normal. Because normal forces, contact force, if surfaces are smooth, contact force act along the normal. And if two surfaces are, suppose I have one surface like this, and both are curved surface, which direction they come in contact, this would be the direction, common normal direction, and this will become the line of collision in case of two spherical object, and as we see in similar case, ball and a floor also. Line of collision we need to keep in mind, they may not be always the same. What is 1D? Head-on collision, when line of motion and line of collision both are same, as is the case here. So we see two objects here. If I see two balls moving, and if they move like this, line joining their centers, which is common normal, and a line of motion, both are along the same direction, it will undergo head-on collision. Let's look at what will happen here. First of all, for collision to take place, if both are, we are taking only 1D, we'll only deal with 1D. 2D also can be dealt with as sum of 1D collision. So here, this one direction, so 1D advantage is all vectors we can represent, all vectors. Direction can be defined using plus minus sign. So here, these are two velocities, object A and B, which are ready to undergo collision. Why are they ready? And U1 has to be greater than U2, then only it will undergo collision. If U1 is, this object is moving slower, collision won't happen. So let's see, U1 is moving faster, like car. So front car, rear car is moving faster. So like pen, then it will have collision. So what are the stages of collision? If field forces are not there, we are talking only about collision due to contact forces, like a billiards ball and all. They will come in contact, then only force will start acting. The first stage, as the velocity U1 is greater, they come in contact here. Then after they come in contact, this is something they will be at a distance equal to sum of the radius here. But when they come in contact, this is moving faster. So distance with the center will tend to reduce. So when the distance tends to reduce, they will deform. So this is something very similar to spring mass system. Yesterday we done something like this. This system is pretty similar. Spring, this deformation is quite visible. Here deformation is not so much, but still it can be noticed here. So this is something, deformation will eat the distance between them, keep reducing. until velocities become equal. One is the deformation maximum when both can be acquired same velocity. But even after the same acquired velocity, still the contact forces are acting in this fashion. If velocities have become equal VV, still forces are acting, then afterwards what will happen? Velocity of B will become greater than A and they'll start separating. So this is something the separation start. And when the separation start, so during this phase here, this stage velocity will equal. By the time this separation has become equal to their sum of radius, which is the case in case of elastic collision, this is acquired velocity greater than other one. From this point onwards, this velocity is continuously reducing, this is continuously increasing. And this is separation. And thereafter, they move with velocity V1 and V2. So just when they lose contact, this is velocity V1 and this will have V2. Thereafter, velocity will not change. So typically what we take only this part and this part. But we to understand this is what is happening during collision period. And I can call this period is a deformation period and this period is a reformation period. It tends to regain its shape. This is deformation and this is reformation. And reformation will happen only due to elastic property. If the material do not have elastic property like a ball, then what will happen? Reformation will not take place. Both will continue moving in the same velocity, which happens in case of perfectly inelastic collision. It doesn't tend to regain its shape. So this is deformation. This is maximum deformation. And reformation, if it is complete, it is perfectly elastic collision. If reformation is partial, it is elastic collision, but not perfectly elastic collision. And then they have these two velocities. But this is what we understood. We'll deal with this part and this part. Typically, we deal with what is the initial state and what is the final state. And this period will take a very brief period of time. And it's extremely small. So let's look at this. So we are also, so what we do to deal with this, there is something called empirical law. We use a term to define coefficient of restitution, which depends on its ability, elastic property, ability to regain its original shape. So this is the only new thing we need to learn here. Each term, coefficient of restitution, is a velocity of separation by velocity of approach. So when we talk of relative velocity, with the relative velocity, we have to take one object as my reference. So suppose you place yourself in the rear car. You are in the object A. As seen from object A, for collision to take place, B must appear to be moving towards U. So what is VBA? VBA is equal to U2 minus U1. So this is velocity of approach of B as seen by A, U2 minus U1 in terms of sign. And what will velocity of separation? So initially, relative velocity should appear to be coming towards U as seen from A. If I look from B, even then A will appear to come away towards B. So relative velocity should be directed towards the frame of reference. Then only collision takes place. And what happens after collision? Relative velocity is away. So before collision, it will appear to coming towards you. After the collision takes place, it will go away unless it is perfectly inelastic collision where it will stick together. So why I put a negative sign? See here, U2 is, in this case, U2 is less than U1. V2 is greater than this velocity has to be greater than this. This velocity has to be greater than this, or this has to be negative and whatever, but this has to move at a speed greater in that direction compared to this. And these two will be the opposite sign. That's why I have negative value. These two relative velocities are in the opposite direction when viewed from one particular frame of reference. So velocity of approach from A will appear to be approaching, and from B also A will appear to be approaching. So I will define, since the velocity of approach direction will depend on which is the frame of reference, A or B. Let's deal with magnitude. What is velocity of approach? Velocity of approach is U2 minus U1 vectors and modulus of that. So a very simple way, what is velocity of approach? If two velocity, since you are talking 1D only, either both can be in the same direction or opposite. If they are both are moving in the same direction, we take difference in magnitude. When they are moving in the opposite direction, since they are negative sign, it will add up. So we can simply find, depending on direction they move, we can add it up or we take the difference of the two. That becomes velocity of approach. It's very easy to find. Now we come to velocity of separation. If I look at this in this case here, velocity of separation will be E times velocity of approach. What is velocity of separation here? If velocity of separation V2 being greater, it will be equal to V2 minus V1 as seen from A. That's velocity of separation. And velocity of separation can also be written as, so velocity of separation is compared to V1, V2 will be higher by velocity of separation. That's what velocity of separation means. So as seen from A, so from this equation, I can write V2, if it is greater, it is equal to velocity of separation plus V1. So one way I can, there are two ways I can represent velocity of separation. One way, if I take this velocity as V, it will be equal to V plus velocity of separation, which is E times velocity of approach. And this is the important thing we need to keep in mind for all questions which involve coefficient of restitution, directly or indirectly. So this difference, this has to be higher. That's one way I can write. I have taken V as unknown, and other one I have written V plus E into VA, velocity of approach. Or we can take this velocity V here, it has to be lower by E into VA. This speed has to be higher. So either the two terms I can write it. Right. So that's the tell for perfectly elastic collision is equal to 1. In mechanical engineering also. That's additional condition we get in case of perfectly elastic collision. And important point we'll keep in mind, if masses are equal, if it is perfect elastic collision, then velocity is just interchange. Okay, velocity, whatever velocity, A will have velocity of B and B will have velocity of A. What has happened? Okay. Okay, perfectly inelastic collision, E becomes equal to 0. They stick together and they will have common velocity, only one velocity in that case. Okay, let's look at the rest all. That's all only thing new, conservation of momentum and coefficient of restitution. Let's just apply some coefficient of restitution concept here. So let's look at some simple questions, and all questions in 1D collision is just solving those equations. Depending on what the conditions are given, you just substitute and solve, you can get most of the questions. So there are not, just practice you'll get those questions. Two spheres A and B are moving the opposite direction with a velocity of 10 meter and 20 meter per second. After an elastic collision, it continues to move in the same direction at 4 meter per second. What is velocity of B? So this is something that's a very simple question. And when they move in the opposite direction, what does it mean? I can represent in terms of figure also. So this one is moving it 10. This one is moving in the backward direction with 20. Relative velocity, the direction are opposite. So velocity of approach is 30. So velocity of separation, since it is elastic collision, velocity of separation also will be equal to 30. So as seen from A, B will be moving away at a speed of 30 meters per second after collision. That's what it means. Since it is given, A is moving in the same direction as original direction at 4 meters per second. This velocity will from with respect to A, it is moving at 30 meters per second. So as we've seen earlier also, what is this velocity of B? Velocity of A plus E times velocity of approach. Elastic collision is equal to 1. So this will be equal to velocity of approach. So it will become 4 plus 30, 34. It's a very simple answer. Let's look at the next question. And this is past up, you'll find is a past JEE advanced question, very simple one and good question. And let's understand here, there are two body X and Y. Body X is moving in the momentum P. So let's assume two body with another identical stationary object. So this has a mass M. And let's assume the velocity is U. And this also has mass M. They're identical. This is at rest. And this is momentum P. Of course, P means equal to P is equal to M. That's what momentum is. And that's what is given here. And when they it has collision with identical stationary object Y head on. During collision, Y gives an impulse J to body X. So it basically means X also will apply equal and opposite impulse J on Y. If impulse is J, what is coefficient of restitution? How do you find coefficient of restitution? I need to find coefficient of restitution. I need two things. Velocity of approach. In this case, velocity of approach we can easily find out, which is U, which is P by M. So if one object is rest, velocity of X itself becomes velocity of approach. It's a relative velocity. One is rest, the velocity of moving object itself becomes velocity of approach. So I need to know what is the final velocity of X and Y. We need to find their velocities. And their velocity will depend on, of course, depends on the impulse. So I need to write velocities in terms of impulse. And what is impulse equal to change in momentum? So once I'm using change in momentum, I can find final velocity of X, final velocity of Y in terms terms of j. And if I find the final velocity of x and y, I can find out the relative velocity of separation. That's the approach here. So this is collision, what is happening. Of course, if this is the direction we are taking, in this sign convention, which I am taking rightward positive, impulse on A will be on backward direction, impulse on B will be in the forward direction. And finally, this acquires velocity v1 and this is v2. This j, initial velocity and final velocity are related. So that's why we need only v1 and v2. Let's how do you find? Body x, let's calculate what happens on x. Impulse is equal to change in momentum. Impulse is equal to minus j, final momentum minus initial momentum. So what we get here, we get the value of v1. v1 is equal to u minus j by m. I get this velocity in terms of j, and final coefficient of restitution also depends on j. That's what it's saying. So depending on coefficient of restitution, different value of impulses are acting. And you can easily notice in case of elastic collision, impulse is greater. So impulse is acting not only during deformation, impulse is also acting during deformation. Similarly, we can calculate what is v2. V2 also very easily can find out. Impulse j is equal to change in momentum, which is equal to m v2, or v2 is equal to j by m. Now we have these two values. So what is velocity of separation? v2 minus v1. Velocity of approach is u. Velocity of separation is v2 minus v1. And v2 minus v1, if I subtract, I get equal to 2j by m minus u. So what is E value equal to? E value is equal to velocity of separation divided by velocity of approach. So I write this term 2j by m minus u and divide by u. And in place of mu, I substitute p. And I get my answer. And the answer is, we substitute that one. Answer comes to 2j by p minus 1. And this is the answer. Depending on what the impulse, what you understand here, as the E, depending on J, E value will be different. And as E increases, J value will increase. More impulse will act. Okay, let's look at this also past means question. And let's see this question also in collinear collision. Particle initial speed u. And you'll notice all these questions are just solving equations. Basically form equation and solve. A particle speed u strikes a stationary particle of same mass. So this mass also m and other also mass. So this is initial state. Speed is u. It strikes another thing which is at rest, A and B. If final total kinetic energy is 50% greater than original kinetic energy, that itself moment, this kind of, see, you notice here, this kind of thing, typically before this question had come in mains, this are questions for, you won't find in any material. So many people, moment they look at this, they feel, how originally it can be greater. But that's what is given. And how could final kinetic energy greater than initial energy? Just imagine, you notice sometimes say something, see, sometimes some tiny explosion can take place on contact. So suppose this goes and strikes this one, and it leads to minor explosion or something. So some contact or collision between A and B leads to some kind of explosion which releases energy. We are not concerned with that. Only thing which is given, the kinetic energy becomes 50% greater. Let's solve it. But if kinetic energy increases, does it mean their momentum will change? Momentum is still, whatever is happening internally between the two, momentum will still remain conserved. That's the only point we need to keep in mind. So 50% greater than original kinetic, magnitude of relative velocity between the particles after collision. We need to find what is velocity after collision. We need to find velocity of separation. Velocity of approach is u. So how do we go about solving this question? Very simple, two equations. There are two unknowns here. When the collision takes place, velocity of A and velocity of B. So two unknowns, we need to have two equations to solve. Wherefrom we are going to get two equations. One of course will come from conservation of linear momentum, and second will come based on relationship between kinetic energy. So if we use those two equations, we can find two unknowns. That's a simple approach. So what we have written here, let's take the final value. So I take this velocity as v, and this velocity becomes equal to v plus x. X being the relative velocity of separation. This is not this velocity of separation. That's what we need to find here. So there are two unknowns, v and x, and two equations. When we write conservation of linear momentum, initial momentum is mu, all in the one direction. Just sign this enough, is equal to mv plus mv plus x. So what I do, first equation, this v value, I find value of v, because finally I need x. So I can find v in terms of u and x. The moment I write in terms of v in terms of u and x, this value with this big speed becomes 1 by 2 u minus x. And this becomes 1 by 2 u plus x. Okay, so this is basically, okay, so this becomes u1 by, and now once these two values are known, I can write kinetic energy of this, kinetic energy of this, and this sum of this kinetic energy is 3 by 2 times of initial kinetic energy. That's what is given here. So if I write that condition, I get the value of x, which comes equal to root u. So nothing but solving equations. This also past means question. And you see some of the question can be solved very, very easily. So 3 blocks A and B, C are lying on a smooth horizontal surface. And as shown in the figure, A and B have equal mass, M and E. And C has block, capital M here. Block A is given a velocity V, and it collides with B perfectly inelastic. And then combined mass, what inelastic means they'll continue motion, and further it goes and collides with the mass C also. Again, this collision is perfectly inelastic. Yeah, some of you have your audio on. Who has this audio on? Please stop. Let's continue then. Okay. So what we have to do, this also there are two collision, and what we need to find, you see also perfect elastic. If 5/6 of initial kinetic energy is lost, the whole process, what is the ratio of these two masses? So we need to find one equation only, and one equation will come from other. Okay, so let's quickly find that value, and very simple here. Using conservation of linear momentum, in case of inelastic means it becomes only one single particle. First, they'll collide with this. I can calculate after they collide, it will become mass will become equal to 2m if you want to do step by step. And velocity will become equal to v by 2. And then further, these two masses together will come and collide. It will become total one mass of equal to 2m plus m. And velocity becomes v dash. And again, I can conserve momentum, or I can directly conserve this momentum with the initial momentum. Both ways are same. I can conserve this momentum with momentum after first collision, and then I conserve momentum after first collision with the momentum after second collision. Or straight away, I can conserve the momentum with the initial one. So after two collision, all three masses will acquire common velocity. Using conservation of linear momentum, combined velocity, and loss of kinetic energy can be found. Once I have found v dash, what will v dash be equal to? V dash will be equal to v divided by 2m plus m into m. And I can find that's a value, we can find v dash, and then we can find using this equation. We can this kinetic energy, final kinetic energy of this mass will be 1/6 of the initial kinetic energy. I can solve another way also. I can find v dash, and the loss of kinetic energy is equal to initial kinetic energy minus final kinetic energy. So I write this term. I can, and this is equal to 5/6 of initial energy. That's one way I can solve. But this question I can solve other way also. What is other way we can solve? See, in this case, what happened? This initial and final value. If I take initial value, the mass was m. And what is the momentum? Let's say momentum was p here. Finally, what has happened? This we can solve equation. I'm telling you something else also, another approach, and see, perhaps you see that way you follow that approach. What has happened finally? The total mass has become 2m plus capital M. All three have become like one particle. But momentum has remained changed. Momentum has remained same. Only thing what is given here, momentum has remained same. And it had k here, it has become k by 6 here. Loss is 5/6. It means final energy remaining is 1/6. So if I compare these two is same, I could have used this also. What is kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is p squared by 2m. In both cases, since the momentum is same, kinetic energy is inversely proportional to mass. If kinetic energy has become 1/6, it means mass has become 6 times more. So if I understand this logic here, very easily, momentum being constant, only mass is changing in the collision process of inelastic collision. Kinetic energy is 1/6 the initial value. It means final mass must be 6 times of the initial mass. So this is initial mass into 6 is equal to my final mass. And that's the answer. So both ways you can look at this and see that both are understood. And this also, I think, is another approach, and it's useful. I think this, if you understand here, it saves time and gives you another way to approach question. Whenever it's something like this, we can use that also. Take energy, momentum, and mass as well. Right. This also, I think these are all kind of past question. And basically notice most of the questions are not too direct and not difficult either. So they are little new question. Many times once you come across questions, slight variations of common questions. Let's look at this. This also is an example of perfectly inelastic collision of particle of mass m moving in x direction with the speed v. So I just want to move it v. Another particle of mass 2m with the speed moving in the y direction, the speed v. I just drawn a figure. This moving in x direction, this moving in the y direction. And if the collision is perfectly inelastic, what is the percentage loss in energy in collision? So this also is a past mains question. And you notice a fairly simple question. So what we need to do, we need to calculate here. Either I can use similar approach as and before, or you can use very simply you can solve. So what are things involved here? When the collision takes place, to find loss of kinetic energy, I need to find using conservation of linear momentum. Because one particle, if I find this speed here, then I can find kinetic energy and I can find loss of kinetic energy. So all I need to find is velocity and then take the magnitude of velocity to speed and calculate kinetic energy. So as simple as that. So basically, if you apply conservation of linear momentum, so in this case, now two dimensions, both the dimensions are involved. So how would I write the equation? I have to use ij component. So what is momentum of this part term here? Into v I cap, velocity is I cap. This is 2m into v into, this mass is 2m, velocity is v, j cap. And due to inelastic collision, it becomes one particle, mass will be 3m, and velocity is for vf. That's what we need to find. So this equation will give you the value of final velocity vector of combined mass after inelastic collision. How much this comes to? It comes to this number. So if I have to look as magnitude, magnitude becomes equal to this also multiply by root 2. Root 2 by v, this becomes my velocity. Now it is fairly simple. I can easily calculate kinetic energy. I'll calculate initial kinetic energy. It becomes equal to 3m square. When we calculate final kinetic energy, by 2 into 3m into this square, we get this number. So what is percentage loss of energy? Percentage loss of energy will be ki minus kf divided by ki. Loss means initial comes first. Initial value is higher and final is lower. That's why there's a loss in 200. This numbers come equal to 500 by 9. And options given like 56%, I think 56%, 60%, those options were given. It comes close to 56%. So there's also nothing complicated. And sometimes the question comes, what is the final angle, which angle it will travel in? Conservation momentum, I can find the direction also. In this case, which angle, since the momentum in x and y directions are equal, it will travel at an angle of 45 degrees. Right, yes.
Sir, in the previous question, if the collision was elastic, what will happen, sir?
The collision elastic, it cannot be solved. Tell me why cannot be solved. In elastic collision, we need to know which direction, how the force will act. What is the line of collision? You understand? In that case, we have to give how are they colliding? Are they colliding at 45 degree or what? If they are colliding at 45 degree, then it becomes oblique collision. We need to solve it in a different fashion. You understood what I'm saying now?
Yes, sir.
So what will happen in that case? If it is elastic collision, we need to know what is the line of collision also. In elastic collision, that is not necessary. Valid question, but I think we'll deal with this question. In this case, what we do here, in case of oblique collision, this becomes line of collision. I'll come to oblique collision later. It becomes, then we need to know the collision parameters. Directly we cannot calculate. Okay, coming to next question. Two balls having mass in m. So just imagine this is like a pendulum. This is a point of suspension. Rather than having one mass connected, identical strings of length L, I have one mass, and other side we have mass 2m. And both are connected to a common point. So two balls having mass in 2m are fastened to light string of same length. Another end is fixed to, and they are released from horizontal position simultaneously. If we release them, what will happen? Of course, both of them will go circular motion in vertical plane. And in all these cases, we take the dimension to be negligible, small balls. So basically, okay, so when they come and if the length is equal, of course, they'll reach the bottom at the same time. I think all of you should understand it will take the time taken will be same. acceleration will be same, and they will undergo collision at the lowest point. And when they undergo collision, the collision depends on, for the collision, we need to know what is the direction of motion when the collision takes place. When collision takes place, it is undergoing circular motion. When it reaches the lowest point, both will have velocity in the horizontal direction. So this question is both will have and point of contact also horizontal. It will undergo 1D collision at the lowest point. And what is the velocity after collision? It is simple. This problem is simple. Head-on elastic collision with equal but opposite velocity. What will velocity here? Even though masses are different, both will have same velocity v equal to root 2 dl. So this what? So this whole question, if we understand well, this only information is given in a different way, but this final question reduces to masses m and 2m undergoing perfectly head-on elastic collision with equal and opposite velocity equal to root 2 gl. So this is a condition given here. M and 2m just before collision, this is v, both in the opposite direction. V is equal to root 2 gl. If I have to find velocity, very simple, I'll use some, okay, let me assume this will have velocity v, and velocity of approach is 2v. This velocity, if I assume this velocity is u, and I don't have to know the direction. When I'm not certain what the direction is, every time I'm taking positive velocities, I'll solve. If u comes negative, it means my direction, what I assume towards right, actually it will have leftward motion. I need not even guess what the directional velocities are. Yes, Dinesh?
Sir, how do we assume which one will have a higher velocity, sir?
I'm not assuming anything. Am I assuming anything?
I mean, like u plus 2v. Okay, that term can be negative, sir.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Whatever velocity it has, if this has velocity of -2, this has 3, what is the difference between two? Velocity separation is 5. So from whatever velocity, it has to have that velocity. Velocity of separation has to be 2v. So when I subtract from this value with sign, this value, this minus this should come equal to 2v. That's all. Do I need to know whether it's positive or negative? No need. That's why I have taken this example. Just see that what happens. And naturally, this case here, whenever elastic collision, when a smaller mass collides with a larger mass, if they have equal velocity, it bounces back. And we'll come to that. So I'm not assuming anything. We don't know. We are not guessing anything. We are just solving just based on velocity of approach and velocity of separation. Important point you need to understand, if I mark this velocity as u, see, this cannot have a lower velocity. This in the same direction, it has to have higher velocity. It has to go away. And what speed has to go away? It has to go e times velocity of approach, which is equal to e is 1, it is 2b. So unless we understand this part, and this is the part, only thing we need to understand in collision, how to write this expression. And other way I could have written, if I could have written this velocity as something, if I have written v, in that case, this velocity I should have written as v minus, sorry, if I written v dash, it would have v dash minus 2v. Any of these two. Okay. So we are not assuming, okay, I don't know what is happening, and we don't have to guess. Now we apply two conditions. Which are the two? Which condition we have to apply? Conservation of linear momentum. When I conservation of linear momentum here, here mv minus 2mv. So this term becomes minus mv. Right hand side, mu plus 2mu plus m into v. So when I simplify, I get this equation. I find the value of only unknown is u here. And I get the value of u comes equal to minus 5 by 3v. Of course, it means this value is negative. So what is this value truly? And when I calculate, this is velocity of first object, minus 5 by 3. It means if this direction is positive, mass m will change this direction. And what is the velocity of other one? 2 plus 2v. It comes equal to 1 by 3v. So it means if they approach velocity v and v, what will happen to mass m? It will have a velocity something like this. If I put an arrow here, I don't have to put a negative sign. Then I can write 5 by 3 v. That's velocity of mass m. And what is velocity of mass m? It will be equal to v by 3. What is v? V is equal to root 3. And you notice here, in that case, after collision, what will happen? This mass 2m will not go back to the same height. Actually, it will not reach horizontal height. It will swing, it will have smaller angular amplitude. And other particle, this acquires velocity, which is greater than root 2 gl. It will go above this original point. Will it slacken or not? Will it complete full circular motion? That is something also we can check. But this is what the velocities will be. And this is how we find in case of collision. Is this part understood? If the ball is striking the floor, basically again there are two objects here. When the floor is also the second object. When the collision takes place, there has to be two objects. The first object is a ball, and floor is the second object. And whenever a floor is second object, in this case, we are taking a mass of the floor is almost infinite. So whatever its mass is infinite, even if you apply an impulse, if mass infinite, change in velocity is equal to 0. When mass is large, the velocity does not change. Change in velocity is equal to 0. So if it is at rest, floor will continue to remain at rest. If floor, in case of it was a lift, if floor was moving with some velocity, say v, it will keep moving with the same velocity v even after collision has taken place. So key point here is whenever collision takes place with a very large mass, much greater than mass of other object, velocity of very large mass remains unchanged. Velocity of very large mass will remain unchanged. I'll come across few more applications of the same later on. Okay, so that's what we need to keep in mind. So even if it strikes the floor, it doesn't mean there are not two objects. Yes, there are two objects. Earth is the floor, also is a large object, flat surface of infinite mass. The ball is striking the floor. The coefficient of restitution is E. It is dropped from height h. Okay, well, then let's understand here what is the speed at which it will rebound, what is the maximum height it will reach, and what are the times involved. They are very simple terms, and let's go through that part also. What is the height of rebound? Let's say to calculate height of rebound, the coefficient of restitution is E. In this case, let's say it reaches just before it strikes and just after it strikes. That's the two velocities which are relevant here. Coefficient of restitution gives you velocity just before collision, just after collision. And when one object is at rest, the relative velocity is equal to velocity of other object. What is relative velocity? Velocity of ball itself is the relative velocity between the floor and the ball, and the floor is at rest. That's another thing, very simple thing. I think this just, you should keep a mental note of this. So if the ball, what is the relative velocity just before collision? If you see collision, it is not concerned with what is happening here. It is only concerned moment this ball comes in contact with the ground and when it leaves contact with the ground. So V1 is the velocity of approach velocity or velocity just before collision, and V1 is equal to root 2gh. V1 is equal to root 2gh, very simple. And soon after collision, let's say the velocity becomes V2. And V2 is nothing but velocity of separation. So ball velocity is the velocity, relative velocity. And V2 has to be equal to E times V1. Okay, so if this is V1, this has to be E times V1. V2 is equal to E times V1. So what is the maximum height to rise after collision? V2 square by 2g. And V2 square by 2g is nothing but E square into V1 square by 2g. And V1 square by 2g is nothing but h. So what is the height of rebound? It becomes E square times h. If I drop a ball from a height h, if coefficient of restitution is E and floor is at rest, it will rebound to height of E square times h. Or if I drop a ball from a height of 1 meter, you can do an experiment with the ball. You check what is the height it bounces back to. If I check this height, it bounces back to is 81 centimeter. It means my coefficient of restitution is 0.9. If ball bounces back to, if the coefficient of restitution is 0.5, it will bounce back to height of 25 centimeter. That's what it means. And we don't have to memorize anything. Very easily it can be arrived at. So if this is something what you understand here, the rest all is pretty simple. Okay, so there are sometimes some questions also, what is the total distance traveled before it comes to stop? So what will happen? This is something the first time it has fallen. Let's take the total distance traveled. Let's track that one. It has traveled a distance h here. Then this is first time it is collided. Then it travels some distance between first collision and second collision. What has to be between first collision and second collision? It will travel a distance e square h up, and again it will travel e square distance, e square h distance down. So the time taken will be equal to twice the time it takes to fall from a height e square h. It is falling from a height e square h. So total distance would, first time distance is h. Second time the distance will become equal to e square h multiplied by 2. Third time it will become again, every time it is gets multiplied, whatever height is there, third collision will height to height of e square times e square height. And likewise, it will become a series like this. If it becomes a series like this, if we remove this term, rest of the term is geometric progression. It becomes series equal to h plus 2 square h 1 plus e square plus e4 and all. It becomes a converging geometric progression. We can find total distance. No need to memorize the formula, and I doubt this question will directly come in this form. So we can calculate total distance it will travel. So basically what we had broken down the distance into two things. This is distance traveled before it has first collision. This is distance between first and second collision. This is distance between third and second, and fourth and third, and likewise. So this is distance between successive collisions. Time of impact, this is the distance traveled. What is the time it will take? Let's look at the time part now. Okay. So first time, so time also I am calculating time for the first collision, then time between first and second collision, second and third collision, and so on and so forth. First time I forget 2h by g, time taken to have vertical displacement of 2h, and this same thing we use in case of horizontal projectile also. Okay. So time between first and second impact, that will be equal to time taken to fall from height of square h multiplied by 2. So time taken to fall from a height, here it was h, now it has become square h. And the 2 has come because it has to rise up and then fall. So this is the term here. And this term is, if you take this e square out, it becomes 2e into t1. So this, whatever time it has taken to fall, the next collision, see, time taken to have first collision is t1, time between first and second collision. So time is equal to 2 into e times t1. And then after it continues. Add up all the time here, it will t1 plus 2e plus 2e square. Every time it becomes e times become, because now it is e square. When I have next one, it will be e4h. So when I substitute e4h here, what will happen? E square term will come here. And very simple this way. So again, this is equal to, if I take first term t1 out, then second 2 into t1, it becomes a geometric progression 1 plus, if we take e common, 1 plus e square, and it becomes a geometric progression, we can find total time taken. That's okay. But I think this formula is not necessary. No need to memorize such formulas. We can calculate those time. So what we need to understand, what is the time it takes from first to second, second to third, and how do we arrive at it? So basically, v, because whatever velocity it falls, it rebounds to velocity e times of that. And from whatever height it falls, it rebounds to height of e square. If that much, if you remember, it is helpful. Even that also not necessary to memorize, but easily it can be arrived at. Okay. Now let's look at some application of this. What application? Two identical balls are dropped from the same height. So this is a floor here. I'll take this is ball 1 and the second ball here. The second ball was released exactly when the first ball collides with the surface. This is the second ball. It is released from height h, and by the time where was the first ball has already hit the floor. This is where the first ball is. Okay. Second ball was released exactly when the first ball has collided with the surface. Now, what happens? The second ball will start falling, and it will take some time to hit the floor. And we have calculated time taken. If height is h, it will take time root 2h by d. We know what the time it will take. So what is given here? When the second exemplifier, this first ball has made, by the time the first ball collides with the surface. So it has taken time t1. During this time, what has happened to first ball? During the first ball has made 2 more collision by the time the second one collides with the surface. So this time, the first ball has already gone up and done like this. It has gone up, it has made 2 collisions. So this is what we did. So this time is equal to time between first and third collision. So time for fall for first collision is equal to time between first and third collision. So let's see how do we form the equation here. Time to hit the surface. The second ball, how much time it takes to hit the surface? Let's say it is falling from height h. Time is 2h by g. Now second thing only is clear. This is something, it has 2 collision. One collision, it has gone up to height of e square h. And second collision, it has gone up to height of e4 by h. So what is the time taken here? Time taken will be equal to 2 into twice, because 2 journeys, 2h by g, 2 into e square h by g. plus the time between first and second collision, and plus 2 into height. Now it will be E4h by V. Same formula I'm using, only in place of h. First time it becomes E square h, second time becomes E4h. If I do so, time for first to second collision, height is E square h. I substitute that value, I get this value, this is the time. And time from second to third collision, height is equal to E4h. If I substitute, these are the values I get. Sum of these two is equal to this. That's what is given here. We simply write this equation. This term is common. When I equate, 2h by root 2h by g gets cancelled. 1 is equal to 2e plus 2e square. That's the equation I get. And I can calculate E here. Simple formation of equation and solving. Okay, next question. Okay, so the previous one very straightforward. Let's look at this question also. You can solve in multiple ways. You can solve in a very circuitous way, long way. You can solve also slightly smarter way as well. Let's look at what are the ways and what is the better way to solve this question. A ball is projected vertically down. Unlike previous cases, not released. It is projected vertically down with initial velocity from height of 20 meters. So all this information I just converted into figure. So from A, height of 20 meters, it is projected downwards. Unless the speed is u. Speed is not given, height is given 20 meters on horizontal floor. During the impact, it loses 20% of energy and then it rebounds to the same height. So during rebound, what will happen? So it will reach with some velocity v1 and it will rebound with velocity v2, which will equal to E times v1. And there's some loss of energy, but it rises to the same height here. That's what is given here. Okay. And it has lost 50% energy. What does it mean? If I calculate energy soon after rebound, if this energy is K here, energy before the impact was equal to 2K. That's what it means. We understand, rest all is simple. So total energy after the impact is K. Total energy before the impact is 2K. That's the information given. 50% of it is lost. If we understand that much part, rest all is pretty simple. So kinetic energy of ball after impact is equal to K. But what is the kinetic energy? The kinetic energy is equal to potential energy here at the highest point. So this K can be written in terms of this height potential energy. So what is this energy K equal to? It is equal to mg into 20. 20 meters is the height. And here this maximum height, kinetic energy is 0. And similar way, kinetic energy of ball before the impact. Before impact has to be 2. What is the kinetic energy? What is kinetic energy of ball before the impact? Before the impact is twice of this. Twice of this also, whatever kinetic energy you calculate, multiply by 2. That's kinetic energy of ball before the impact. But this kinetic energy at this point has to be equal to total energy at A. Because in between, from point A to this point, there's no loss of energy. So I'm equating 2K to total energy at A. And which is, I think, should be fairly easy to understand. And what is total energy at A? Potential energy plus kinetic energy. So this term, I equate this term 40 mg is equal to 20 mg, mg into h, plus 1 by 2 mu square. I get the value of u from here. And we find u is equal to 20 meters per second.